What's good, family? Chief Drano's live. I am Chief Drano. Welcome to my channel. Let's see. We haven't got anyone here watching, but I'm sure you're gonna catch up on the replay. I am Chief Drano. Welcome to my channel again. My channel is all about Pan-Africanism, the global unification of everyone of African descent. Okay, African Union. All right. Wherever you find yourself on this planet, if you recognize that you are African, okay, it's a must that you unite, you connect with your family, and join the fight. And the end game is going back to Africa to rebuild, okay, build something meaningful and substantial for the people on the continent and for all Africans in the diaspora worldwide. All right. So I am trying not to make this stream a lengthy one. I'm not feeling too well. I had a nasal infection last week, so yeah, excuse the voice. Yeah, but regardless, we have to keep on pushing. Okay, we don't stop. All right, we don't stop. When we stop, the moment we stop is the moment we die. So we keep on pushing. As long as we have breath in us, we keep on pushing. All right, so it's like I said, I'm not going to make this a lengthy one. I have found a niche which I do my my uploads by, and I try not to come on as often as I used to in the past year. In 2019, I exhausted myself last year, doing live streams. But this year it's not going to be like that. But I'm still gonna do my best, as my job is now very, very demanding. So yeah. If you're wondering what I do, I am a process engineer. My background is mechanical engineering, and I love science, and I view the world through the lens of science. I have a scientific view of the world for the most part. So you see a lot of my streams are based on slightly politics with a scientific approach, and with Africa in the center of my discussions and my videos and uploads for the most part. So yeah, I am very, very African centered or Africa centered. So if you're joining me for the first time, if you're coming on my stream for the first time, I want to welcome all my new subscribers. I've noticed some people have subscribed to the channel. If you've newly subscribed to the channel, please like the stream, share it with friends and family, and help the channel grow. We currently at 677 subscribers, so the channel is growing slowly but surely. The goal for last year was 1,000 subscribers, but I did not attain that. I really need 1,000 subscribers to be able to live stream on my mobile on the go, because editing videos could take a long time actually. To make five minutes video, to upload a 5 minutes video could take me anything between 3 to 4 hours of editing. So it's very, very time consuming uploading videos. So hence why I did a lot of live streams last year, and within 2 hours I was done. But yeah, so there are a lot of topics to talk about. The last time I was talking about Trump's involvement in the Middle East regards to Iran, how he ordered a drone strike on the Iranian military general Soleimani, and disrupted global peace, and the everything that followed. I knew Mr. Trump wasn't going anywhere. The impeachment trial shortly took place, and today, news broke that Mr. Trump has been acquitted, which has, prompted him or put him in a position of re-election for a second term. Okay, during the State of the Union, uh, State of the Union, what was it, speech, uh, they were chanting 4 more years. Okay, so definitely Mr. Trump is not going anywhere. Okay, impeachment means nothing really. So Bill Clinton was impeached, but he still stayed in power. Judge Bush, I think, was impeached as well, stayed in power. So it means really, really means nothing. And now that Mr. Trump has been acquitted of doing no wrong, yeah, he's clear to restand election in November this year. So it's really, really interesting. A part of me really wants Mr. Trump to stay because Mr. Trump is really, really good for Africa. Be it that when Trump is in power, okay, he's sort of left Africa alone for the most part. He thinks Africa is a shithole. So his policies do not include Africa, which is a good thing. So it allows Africa to thrive. It's when they set their eyes on Africa that's when things are disrupted. Trump in power is disrupting the European Union with Brexit taking full effect. We know that Mr. Boris Johnson has gone ahead and won Brexit for Britain, and the consequences are dire for Britain for the most part. Britain will become the enemy of the EU if it tries to, or if it ends up negotiating trade deals with the United States, whose policies are not aligned with NATO in China for the most part. So it's very, very interesting times ahead. But saying this, there are other policies of Boris Johnson, which is going to really, really help the world in terms of climate change. Recently, there was a summit with Boris Johnson, and where it featured David Attenborough, the documentarian, which talked about climate change and Earth and stuff like that and saving the planet. So Britain has pledged zero emission by the year 2040, and expeditiously pushed for the ban of fossil fuel, consumption by cars. But the year 2035 initially was 2040, but it's been moved forward to 2035, which is great for the world. I'm very, very excited that we are moving away from fossil fuel, and no other country than Britain is spearheading this. Okay, so the British Empire is still holding on to its last strength, but saying that Scotland has vowed to leave the British Empire, or the British Union, and join the European Union. But this banning of fossil fuels by the year 2035 in cars, and ushering in electric cars and stuff like that is very, very positive, on a positive note for Boris Johnson and Britain moving forward, and setting the stage for positive events in the world. So we're seeing these things, politics play out. Politics, as I say, is a dirty game, but interesting things can ensue. So we'll see how that goes and the implications of that regarding Africa. So yeah, saying that about Africa, it's all clear now. We know that in January they promised the African heads of states promised that the eco currency will roll out in January, but we've found out that the eco currency is being backed by the euro, and the euro is heavily pushed by France and Emmanuel Macron. So it's no different to the CFA franc. All right, so nothing has really changed. It's just changed the name. So it's very, very interesting to see what's going to happen. So the hype is dying down about the eco currency. So what I'm really banking on now is the continental Africa free trade, Africa continental free trade area, which is really, really going to do good for Africa. So that's what I am banking on at the moment. So so this is the prelude to everything that I'm going to address. One thing I forgot to talk about was the climate change. I mentioned before, well, not I abruptly talked about it, how expeditiously the climate is changing. Global warming is taking full effect. We saw this summer how crazy it was in Australia. Currently, Queensland is flooding. Okay, after several weeks of drought and bushfires, and majority of Australia was on fire, and now we getting floods and heavy rainfall and stuff like that. So it's all climate change. The global temperature has risen at all-time high this summer for Australia and the world. Uh, so yeah, I mean these climate change, doubters and stuff like that. I mean, you guys have to be really, really be ashamed of yourselves. All right, promoting false propaganda and stuff like that. The world is actually changing. The planet is dying, and we are killing it. So it's a nice move by Britain to actually spearhead the banning of fossil fuels in cars, or fossil fuel cars, by the year 2035, and saying this, the permafrost melting really, really fast in the Arctic Circle. Antarctica is also losing ice as well, so we're going to be seeing global sea rise as predicted in the next in this century, for the year 2100. Global sea level are going to rise even faster than previously predicted. So we're going to be seeing all these things. All right. Right. So yeah, again, so my channel is all about Pan-Africanism, global unification of everyone of African descent, African Union. All right, and my topics are very African centered. So talking about first, I'm gonna introduce some articles. I'm gonna read some articles and put some meat on the bones of what I'm talking about. So Trump is back in action. Trump is good for Africa. Let me know what you think in the comment section after this video. And also one more thing, Trump has extended travel bans to mainly majority Muslim countries. Now Nigeria is included. So yeah, we're going to be seeing the implications of that and stuff like that. And now that the world is going to shift from fossil fuel, it's going to cripple Nigeria's economy and all oil producing company or economies like the Arab countries and African countries and stuff like that. And the banning of fossil fuels, again, the implications of that for Africa. I mean, Africa still has the potential to grow because we still yet to, recognize or come, put into fruition our industrial revolution. We cannot skip that, so we need to burn some fossil fuel, and we're going to be seeing all these things happening. Politics playing around that. They're going to probably devalue fossil fuels and the production of petrol and stuff like that. But because of the Africa continental free trade, it's going to allow Africa to trade within itself. Nigeria is going to be trading. Nigeria, which is I think the 8th biggest oil producer, might not produce oil globally, but it should be able to produce oil to African countries which actually need it, which is Africa, which is actually now going through its industrial revolution. So we're going to be seeing all this politics play out in the near future. All right, so since there's no one here, I'm going to end this introduction and jump to the articles. Okay, so my first article that I'm going to be reading is Mr. Trump's acquittal news. Okay, I'm going to read that first, and then I'm going to read facts on his State of the Union speech, which was torn by Nancy Pelosi, which is mainly a sign of defiance. You know, she's not very, and the Democrats are not very excited about the acquittal of Mr. Trump, but it is what it is. Okay, we already knew that he's not going anywhere. Trump is not going anywhere. Okay, Trump is not going anywhere. So I stated again, Trump is good for Africa. So yeah, but I see someone is here. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're coming through again to support your journal, please leave me a comment. All right, let me know. Let me know how you're feeling. Okay, so as you can see, I'm donning you know, Boston Celtics. Okay, this is my team. All right, they've been an arch rival of LA Lakers, and I want to say you know, rest in power to Kobe Bryant. All right, the Mamba spirit. All right, rest in peace, rest in power. I'm only 5'8", but you know, I'm a very good basketball player. All right, and I am a very good jumper as well. So I used to play basketball. So yeah, rest in power. Yeah. So that's another topic to talk about. But I'm going to move on to Mr. Trump. Okay. So my first article that I wanted to talk about is Trump acquitted by Senate in impeachment trial. All right. So let's get it. Okay. So this article is by BBC. Okay. BBC.com. Okay. So President Trump is. Let's see. So President Donald Trump has been cleared in his impeachment trial, ending a congressional bid to oust him from office that bitterly divided the U.S. Okay. The Senate, run by President's fellow Republicans, voted to acquit him 52 to 48 on charges of abuse of power and 53 to 47 on obstruction of Congress. Okay, so Democrats charged Mr. Trump in December with pressuring Ukraine to smear a potential White House rival. In November, Mr. Trump will be the first impeached president to go for re-election, I should say. In its historic vote on Wednesday, the Senate decided not to remove America's 45th president from office on charges arising from his dealings with Ukraine. Okay, so if convicted on either charge, Mr. Trump would have had to turn over his office to Vice President Mike Pence. The Democratic-led House of Representatives approved the articles of impeachment on the 8th of December. How did President Trump react? Okay, so Mr. Trump, who is seeking a second four-year term in the 3rd November election, always denied wrongdoing. His, you know, anybody who is narcissistic would really deny any wrongdoing. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Trump is known for doing that. He lies through his teeth. Right. Okay. His re-election campaign said in a statement, Mr. Trump has been totally vindicated, and it's now time to get back to the business of American people. The do-nothing Democrats know they can't beat him, so they had to impeach him. It said this terrible deal and nonsense was merely a Democratic campaign tactic. Okay. The statement added, this impeachment hoax will go down as the worst miscalculation in American political history. Mr. Trump, whose potential approval rating with American voters hit a personal best of 49% this week, according to Gallup, tweeted that he would speak on Thursday about the case. Okay, so he did. How did the impeachment vote play out? Mitt Romney of Utah was the only Republican senator to cross aisles and convict Mr. Trump on the first charge of abuse of power. Okay, despite Democratic hopes, two other moderate Republicans, Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, did not join Mr. Romney in voting to convict the president. Some Republican senators criticized Mr. Trump's behavior in recent days, but said it did not rise to the level of impeachment. Sorry to jump in. I think the State of the Union speech actually aided, this or probably construed this election result. Okay, so there was a lot of lies. He spoke in a sort of the union, but Americans are very, very gullible, so they like to hear good things. All right, and good things which are not necessarily true. Okay, but Mr. Trump is very, very convincingly known to speak lies. All right, so moving on. Three centrist Democratic senators who Republicans had hoped would side with them instead voted to convict Mr. Trump. They were Christine Sinema, blah blah blah, of Alabama. That doesn't matter now. The 2/3 majority vote was needed to remove Mr. Trump, which was always going to be a long shot in a 100-seat chamber controlled by his party. So the seat is controlled by bloody Republicans. All right, so what was Trump accused of? The impeachment charges focused on Mr. Trump's request that Kiev announce a corruption investigation into Joe Biden, a Democratic White House candidate, and his son Hunter Biden. Mr. Trump has argued that the younger Biden improperly held a board position with a Ukrainian natural gas firm, while his father was U.S. vice president and in charge of American-Ukrainian election. Democrats accused Mr. Trump of abusing his power by withholding $391 million or 300 million pounds in security aid to prod Ukraine's president into digging up dirt on the Bidens. Excuse the operator. They also charged Mr. Trump with obstruction of Congress after the White House blocked testimony and documents sought by the White House impeachment investigators. The impeachment inquiry stemmed from Mr. Trump's phone call on the 25th of July this year, in which he asked Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky to do us a favor. Following a complaint from an anonymous government whistleblower, Democrats launched their investigation in September, compiling a 2,800-page report, which is all a waste now. Okay, it's all rubbish now. I mean, who the hell is going to read that? Or who the hell read that 2,800-page report? I mean, this is a waste of taxpayers' money. Waste. What a waste. Waste of taxpayers' money. The whole impeachment saga was just waste of taxpayers' money. A theater at best. A theater at best. Okay. It's very, very sad. I feel very, very sad that this actually happened. I feel sad that this actually happened. Okay. They all wasted our time. Anyway, so mic check here, mic check. All right, all good. So anyway, what is the historical president? Okay, so Mr. Trump is the third U.S. president to have been impeached. Okay, the two others, Bill Clinton in 1999 and Andrew Johnson in 1868, were left in power by the Senate and did not seek re-election. President Richard Nixon resigned before he could be impeached. Okay, so how did Democrats react? Democrats expressed concern that acquittal would further embolden Mr. Trump, or a president whom they depict as a demagogue. Okay, which a lot of Democrats always call Trump a demagogue. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Mr. Trump remains an ongoing threat to American democracy, and that Senate Republicans had normalized lawlessness, which is not too far from the truth there. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said there will always be a giant asterisk next to the president's acquittal. No doubt the president will boast he received total exoneration, said the New York senator, but we know better. So Mr. Trump is going to boast. He's going to blow his own Trump. Well, speaking of Trump, he's going to speak highly of himself. We know how Trump does. Okay, so yeah, Trump will always do what Trump does. So what did Republican senators say? So Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee warned before he voted to acquit that a guilty verdict would rip the country apart. Okay, which could be true. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who is always going to vote against this anyway, said the entire case against Trump had been a circus. I totally agree. It's been a circus. It's been clownish. It's been foolish. It's been waste of taxpayers' money. And that is very sad. Okay, Americans have wasted so much money on this, and time is always money. When you're running a business, a country is a business. Running a country is a business, and Trump views running this country as a business. And most people voted for Mr. Trump because Trump is a businessman, and everything he does it like a businessman would. Okay, so when you're running a business, you're looking at costs, and you're looking at waste. Okay, so it is what it is. Anybody in position of power running the government will be valuing this or evaluating this and calling it circus. Okay, waste of time, waste of money, waste of resources. All right. And Nancy Pelosi chasing this, ripping the paper signifies, what circus this is. Okay, waste of paper, waste of ink, waste of everything, waste of energy, waste of space. So yeah. Lindsey Graham of South Carolina said the proceedings were a sham. Okay, designed to destroy a presidency. Not really. Okay, was it legitimate that Trump be impeached? Oh, definitely. He's done worse than his involvement with Ukraine. He's done worse. Okay, a president that grabs women by their pussies. I mean, it's a shame. He was talking about winning the respect of America, globally. I mean, what a lie! The whole world is laughing at Americans. Elm City, what's happening, sister? I mean, America is a joke now. I mean, nobody respects America for that fact because everyone sees Mr. Trump as a joke. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna read about the facts, about the State of the Union speech and how much that was such a, a farce. It wasn't. There was little truth in that. Okay, it was all Trump's own ego, playing out in this state. But people bought into it. People bought into it. Majority of Americans are sensationalists. Okay, they don't believe in truth. It's what they hype things that actually do not hold anything of significance, really. All right, so Mr. Romney, the 2012 Republican presidential nominee, choked up on the Senate floor as he explained his decision to convict the president. It's gonna be really weird between Romney and Trump at the moment. So he said Mr. Trump had been guilty of appalling abuse of public trust, okay, and a flagrant assault on our electoral rights, our national security, and our fundamental values. Is this the end of the matter? Mr. Trump has probably not heard the last of the Ukrainian investigations. Jerry Nadler, the Democratic chairman of the House of the Judiciary Committee, said on Wednesday the chamber would likely issue a subpoena for Mr. Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, Mr. Mustache Bolton. Senate Republicans ultimately declined to seek Mr. Bolton's testimony during the president's impeachment trial, provoking uproar from the Democrats. Okay, a manuscript of a forthcoming Bolton memoir reportedly alleges Mr. Trump told his former national security advisor to help him pressure Ukraine, and Republicans have vowed to block. They vowed to block Mr. Bolton's book, and I mean, what's his name? Trevor Noah made a joke about that. So I mean, it's all a sham. It's a circus. It's a joke. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of resources. I mean, in my last stream, I stated that Mr. Trump is not going anywhere. Okay, you know, the main reason for that is probably, you know, Trump is the best, you know, to handle the situation with Iran at the moment. He's possibly the least warmongering president America has ever had. You know, he's pulling troops out of Africa. I mean, which is great. I mean, he's pulling troops out of Syria, which is fantastic. You know, it's great. Although some decisions seem very foolish, but you know, as long as it works for Africa, I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy. Everything's working out for Africa. So now, let's let us fact check Mr. Trump's State of the Union speech, also by CNN. Okay, so I am going to share that. City, what did you think about Mr. Trump's acquittal? Let me know what you think. Your president, Mr. Trump, is not going anywhere. All right, so he's going to be re-elected. Okay, so Trump is going to have a second term, 2 terms. All right, and which is a shame. I haven't heard much from Mr. Obama about the situation, so it's quite early. So we have to see what's going to happen. And yeah. So yeah, let me know what you think. I've been checking out your channel, Elm City. You haven't released any videos, but I saw your what's this Black Ops, you know, game playing, a few games that you had on there. Yeah, pretty cool. Nice. So yeah. So now we're going to talk about the fact checking of Trump's State of the Union BS. Okay, so this is also by CNN Politics. Facts first. Okay, so CNN Politics fact checking the 2020 State of the Union speech. Okay, so if you haven't seen it, every article that I read, it's in the description box. Please check it out. So, Washington, CNN, a day before the Senate votes on whether to convict. So this is a day prior. Okay, this is like Wednesday, Wednesday or Tuesday. Let's see, what was this article? February the 6th. Okay, so this article is on the February the 6th, Australian time. So that was yesterday. Today is the February 6th. I think Americans are still in February 5th, so this is what it is. A day before the Senate votes on whether to convict or acquit him on 2 charges of impeachment, President Donald Trump gave his annual State of the Union speech in the House. Okay, while Trump is known for his ad-libbed remarks rife with false claims. Okay. This is what it is, actually, false claims. I mean, aka lying. Okay, he tends to stick to the script for formal speeches such as the State of the Union. Nonetheless, here are facts around what the president said in his 3rd State of the Union. So energy. Okay, first is energy. Oil and gas production. In the introduction, I said how Britain has vowed, okay, to eliminate or ban cars or new cars, okay, ban the sales of new cars that consume fossil fuels in the year 2035. They set 2040 and then pushed it forward to 2035. So we're going to be seeing what this is really heavily going to affect the petrol industries. Eventually, everyone is going to buy electric cars, okay, because they're far cheaper. Myself, I'm looking forward to buying a hybrid car for my next car. I was considering a Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, okay, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which consumes 1.7 liters combined fuel consumption of 1.7 liters per 100 k's, 100 kilometers per hour. I mean 100 kilometers in distance. You can't beat that. Okay. Nobody wants to be spending money on petrol these days anyway, especially a country like Australia now because of the war with Iran, the talk of war with Iran. Petrol prices jumped to almost $2 a liter here in Australia, so which was very, very scary. So everyone is trying to move away from oil and gas, for their cars anyway. So this right here is rubbish. Okay, so we're going to talk about the fact as well. And CNN has outlined this very, very well. So Trump talked about the production of oil and gas in the U.S. during his time in office, thanks to quoted by this is Trump speaking. Okay, thanks to our bold regulatory reduction campaign, the United States has become the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world by far, Trump said. It's nothing to boast of, really. Okay, but Trump, who does not believe in climate change, okay, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, a few ticks. Okay, so facts around that statement there by Mr. Trump. The U.S. did not become the world's top energy producer under Trump. It took the top spot under Obama administration in 2012. According to the U.S. Government Energy Information Administration, the U.S. became the top producer of crude oil, in particular during Trump's tenure. Okay, so the United States has been the world's top producer of natural gas since 2009, when the U.S. natural gas production surpassed that of Russia, and it has been the world's top producer of petroleum hydrocarbons since 2013, when its production exceeded Saudi Arabia's. The Energy Information Administration says. So Trump always likes to take credit for Obama's achievements. Okay, and this is what Trump does. Okay? Everything Trump has achieved, Donald Trump, everything that Obama has achieved, Trump takes credit for it. All right, so mind you, Trump is building on the success of Obama. All right, he likes to poop on Obama, but he is building on Obama's. Trump is building on Obama's success. Okay, Obama turned the country around from George Bush's, crazy tenure in office. Okay, bringing America or the United States back into a global force. Okay, and Trump is just building on that. All right. So let's talk about the economy. So unemployment for disabled Americans, Trump said. Trump claimed the unemployment rate for disabled Americans has reached an all-time low under his presidency. Okay, the fact is the unemployment rate for Americans with disabilities is lower than at any point in Obama's administration, but it did go up from 6.1% in September of last year to 7% in December. In addition, describing this as an all-time low obscures the fact that the government has only tracked this data since 2008. All right, so again, Trump is taking credit for what Obama has done. Unemployment for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians. Okay, so Trump said the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians are at the lowest levels ever. The unemployment rate for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans has reached the lowest levels in history, Trump said in his speech. Okay, so the fact is, Trump is correct. The unemployment rate for each of these three groups is at a record low at last at least since the government has been issuing data on them. The data for African Americans and Hispanics goes back to the early 1970s, while the data for Asians only goes back to the year 2000. Trump inherited a positive trend that has continued during his tenure. Okay, so the unemployment rate for all three groups had fallen substantially under President Barack Obama from the recession era levels of 2009. So in 2009, when Obama inherited, uh, the office of presidency of the United States, America was, or the U.S. was in recession 2008, 2009. So Obama turned that around. All right. So again, the African American unemployment rate was 5.9% in December 2019. That is an uptick from 5.4% all-time low in August 2019, but it's still lower than the rate at any point under any other president for whom we have data. Okay, so the Hispanic unemployment rate was 4.2% in December 2019, an uptick from the 3.9% all-time low in September 2019, but again, lower than any point under any other president for whom we have data. So the Asian unemployment rate was 2.4% in December, an uptick from the 2.0% low of May 2018, but still a smidgen lower than the pre-Trump record 2.6% in December 2016, Obama's last full month in office. Okay, so factories. Okay, Trump said that after losing 60,000 factories under the previous two administrations, America has now gained 12,000 new factories during his time in office. The fact around this is both figures are correct, though it's worth noting that the numbers include both large traditional factories and tiny facilities that produce goods with fewer than 5 employees. This is a joke, right? There are different ways to measure the number of manufacturing establishments in a country. According to the Census Bureau's statistics of U.S. Business Data Series, the number of manufacturing establishments in the U.S. fell by 61,106 between 2001, the beginning of George W. Bush administration, when there were 352,619 establishments, and 2016, the last full year of Obama administration, when there were 291,543 establishments. That's a reduction of about 17%. Another government measure, the quarterly census of unemployment and wages, shows an increase of 12,074 in the number of manufacturing establishments between the quarters of 2017, so 343,972 jobs, okay, manufacturing jobs, when Trump took office, and the second quarter of 2019. The most recent data available is 356,046 manufacturing jobs. So yeah. Job creation. Trump said 7 million new jobs have been created since his election, more than government experts projected during the previous administration. Okay, so Trump is saying this. Okay, the fact is, Trump is correct. Between November 2016, the month of his election, and December 2019, last month for which we have data, the economy added 7.3 million jobs. Okay, so between February 2017, Trump's full month in office, and December 2019, the economy added 6.7 million jobs, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Jobs added in January 2020 and early days of this month likely took the total under Trump even closer to 7 million. The jobs report for January is due on Friday, so this coming Friday, the 7th of February. Okay. But pre-election, Trump said he would create 25 million jobs. Okay, so this is what he's saying. So this is, I mean, he's having an uptick in this economic trend, which he promised. So he's actually delivering in doing so, and this is actually going to prompt his re-election. If nothing else. Okay, this State of the Union, like I said, this State of the Union election actually did him the favor to be acquitted. Okay, so the numbers are in his favor. So yeah. So I mean, he's doing quite well as a businessman, running his country vigorously. Okay, the numbers are actually pointing in the right direction. But what does that mean? What does it mean? Okay, so we're gonna see what's gonna transpire in the next election. It's gonna be really interesting, right? So like I said, Trump's approval has increased to 49%. So it's speaking volume, actually. What's actually happening? Okay, what's happening? Because Trump is not going anywhere. So regarding the projection, it was not immediately clear what Trump was referring to, but yeah, it's clear. I mean, he's rising, man. So food stamps. Okay, Trump touted how the strong economy has lifted people out of poverty, noting that fewer people are enrolled in food stamps. Does it mean they? I mean, it's difficult now to enroll in poverty. I mean, yeah, enroll for food stamps. That's probably why he's saying that. But under my administration, 7 million Americans have come off food stamps. So Trump said during Tuesday's address. Okay, so fact first. It's true that fewer people receive food stamps than when Trump took office, but he exaggerates the figure. Some 36.4 million people were enrolled in the supplemental nutrition assistance programs, or SNAP, the formal name for food stamps, in October 2019. According to data from the US Department of Agriculture, that compares to 42.7 million who received food stamps in January 2017. When Trump became president, that's a difference of 6.3 million. However, the October 2019 figure does not include data from North Carolina. Factoring in that data, the decline was closer to 5 million, according to the left-leaning Center in Budget and Policy Priorities. Okay, so while much of the recent decline in food stamps is due to the stronger economy, experts said the Trump administration is pushing policies that will kick millions more of the rolls, like I stated before. So the policies or the criteria to be met in order for you to enroll into food stamps have been scrutinized, okay, have been tightened. So that's why you're seeing this, and it's actually helping. It's forcing people to look for jobs. So yeah, officials unveiled a rule in December that will require more food stamp recipients to work in order to receive benefits. I mean, if I'm working, why am I going to be going to receive benefits? And actually, if you're working and you're earning money, they're not going to enroll you to qualify for food stamps in the first place. So I mean, it's kind of like, contradictory, right? So the new requirement limits states' ability to waive existing work mandates and could result in 688,000 people losing assistance, nearly 1 million people getting off food stamps, okay, according to the Agricultural Department. The move is one of 3 Trump administration efforts to overhaul SNAP. Okay. Another proposed regulation which would tighten the rules governing who qualifies for aid could end up stripping more than 3 million people of their benefits and leave nearly 500,000, half a million people, or half a million children without access to free school meals. The third proposal would change how allowances for utility expenses are calculated, which would have a mixed impact. Okay, so this, believe it or not, this is going to really affect African Americans. This is going to affect African Americans. All right, so this is your Mr. Trump. So the agency is still working on the latter two proposals. Okay, so together the proposed regulations would have decreased the number of people on food stamps by the 3.7 million had they been implemented last year, according to a number reported from Urban Institute. So immigration, I'm going to say Trump's extended his immigration ban or visa ban to Nigeria. Okay, so evidently American Nigerians are growing in number, and the census is saying Nigerians are growing. African immigrants are one of the growing populations or demographic populations in the United States. African languages are on the rise in the United States. So, I mean, this is all racist. Okay, this is racist. You know. So yeah, Trump said his administration. So the U.S. Mexico border. He's going to speed or expedite the building of the Mexican border wall. The see-through wall. See-through wall. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, huh? So Trump said his administration has taken an unprecedented effort to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. Fact first, while it's unclear what measures Trump is specifically referencing when he says unprecedented effort, his administration has taken some steps previous administrations haven't, and officials have credited those measures with having reduced the influx of immigrants into the U.S. Still, crossings at the southern border remain, and many of the policies put forth by the Trump administration have resulted in prolonged court challenges. The last fiscal year, Border Patrol arrested more than 851,000 people trying to cross the southern border, leading to overcrowding in border facilities and straining the administration's resources. Since then, border arrests have declined, but they remain high. Last December, for example, Border Patrol arrested 32,000. So if that rate is maintained, 32,000, that is nearly 400. Well, let's say 32,000, 33,000 people. This is roughly 1.2 million people plus 1.3 million people. So this is really crazy. By the end of the year, or more. So over the last year, the Trump administration has rolled out a series of policies to curtail the flow of asylum seekers to the border, such as the so-called Remain in Mexico policy, forcing migrants, many of whom are from Central America, to Mexico, marks an unprecedented shift in the U.S. asylum policy. Instead of living in the U.S. as they work their way through the immigration court process, migrants are required to stay in Mexico under the policy formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols. So despite ongoing legal challenges, the federal appeals court allowed the policy to continue. So Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman Heather Swift has called the policy an effective tool to address the ongoing crisis at the southwest border, echoing similar praise from other administration officials. Okay, so border wall, Trump claimed to have built over 100 miles of a long, tall, and very powerful border wall, which, mind you, by the way, he also says is a see-through wall. So the fact is, U.S. Customs and Border Protection said that as of January 31st this year, 115 miles of new border wall system had been built. The overwhelming majority has replaced dilapidated dilapidated barriers with a new enhanced wall system. Around 1 mile has been built where there was no previous barrier. The Trump administration calls all miles new, arguing that it is all a major improvement on what was there before. Critics scoff at the inclusion of replacement and reinforcement barriers in the new category, yet administration officials have stood by their classification. One thing I want to emphasize is that every inch of the 100 miles that we have constructed is new border wall system. Acting DHS Chief Chad Wolf said in January, it's not so-called president wall. It's not so-called replacement wall, as some of our critics claimed. It is new wall. So catch and release. Okay, Trump repeated a concern he's voiced previously about he called so-called catch and release practice, claiming migrants who were released never showed up for their assigned court date. Before I came in office, Trump said Tuesday, if you showed up illegally on our southern border and were arrested, you were simply released and allowed into our country, never to be seen again. Fact, this is not true. Government data shows that as of 2017, a majority of asylum seekers show up for their court hearings. According to data from the Department of Justice, the rate of asylum seekers who did not appear for the court hearings rose from 9% in 2016 to 11% in 2017. That was under Mr. Trump's tenure, okay, Trump's office. Okay, so there was a spike in people actually not turning up. So meaning that roughly 90% of those actually do show up for their court hearing, but actually rose. But chances for you, if you turn up in court, chances are you will be acquitted and you might be granted asylum. But when Trump took office, people were actually, eluding this. Okay, sorry. So illegal crossings. Trump touted that his efforts to curb illegal immigration or illegal migration said that as a result of our unprecedented efforts, illegal crossings are down 75% since May, dropping 8 straight months in a row. Okay, so facts first. Trump is correct about the recent decline, but he's cherry picking the most favorable possible starting point. May 2019 was the month with the largest number of illegal crossings at any point in his presidency. The total number of illegal crossings under Trump has increased, not decreased, from the late Obama era. So he is actually fixing his own mistakes, and he's taking credit for doing so. Well, this guy is very smart. All right. Every time I've listened to him, right, any good liar is a smart person. So I think Trump is dumb, but he's very smart at being dumb. So I give him that. So the number of apprehensions and people deemed inadmissible at the southwest border, used as a proxy for the number of illegal crossings, was 144,116 in May. The number dropped every month through December, when it was 40,620, a decline of 72%. There was another decline in January, according to the data obtained by CNN, and not yet published by the government. So the total number of people apprehended or deemed inadmissible for the 2019 fiscal year was 977,509 people. That's the highest number since 2007 and 77% higher than 553,378 figure for 2016 fiscal year under President Obama's last full fiscal year in office. So under Trump, okay, that was a failure, okay, but he's taking credit for actually fixing his own mistakes. But yeah, but making it seem like his predecessors did nothing, stuff like that. So we know what Trump is playing games with. So healthcare, Trump has repeatedly promised to protect those with pre-existing conditions even as he has sought to kill the Affordable Care Act, which was put in by Mr. Obama, which greatly expanded those safeguards. Okay. I've also made an ironclad pledge to American families. We will also protect patients with pre-existing conditions, he said during Tuesday's State of the Union address. The fact is, Trump's claim about protecting those with pre-existing conditions is false. Though Trump says he would do this, his administration has consistently taken steps to undermine the Affordable Care Act, including joining a lawsuit aimed at striking down the law without presenting alternative plans that would offer similar benefits. Okay. So he's trying to reverse all of Obama's policies there and take credit for Obama's achievements. So this is what Trump is doing. The Affordable Care Act barred insurers in the individual market from denying people coverage or charging them higher premiums because of their health histories. Also, carriers had to provide comprehensive coverage offering 10 essential health benefits, including maternity, mental and health, and prescription drugs. So Trump has worked to undermine the Affordable Care Act from his first day in office, when he issued an executive order directing agencies to interpret its regulations as loosely as possible. He championed congressional Republicans' bills in 2017 that would have weakened the law's protection. Okay, so, and his Justice Department is siding with a coalition of Republican states that are fighting in federal court to invalidate the Affordable Care Act. An appellate panel in December upheld a lower court ruling that found Obamacare's individual mandate unconstitutional, but sent the case back to the lower courts to decide whether the entire law must fall. So the president has said repeatedly that he would roll out a new healthcare plan that would protect those with pre-existing conditions, but he has yet to do so. So he hasn't done that yet. Last April, he backed away from pushing a vote on a replacement plan until after the 2020 election. So, yeah. He has left that in suspense. So meanwhile, he issued another executive order in late 2017 that would make it easier for Americans to buy alternatives to the Affordable Care Act that are cheaper but offer fewer protections, such as short-term health plans. The law's defenders, however, fear that such plans could siphon off younger and healthier people, which could cause premiums to rise for those left buying policies in the Obamacare exchanges. Obama's administration also allowing states to make major changes to their Obamacare markets, which could also leave low-income, older, or sicker residents with fewer choices and higher costs. Few states have taken the federal government up in his offer to so far. So drug overdose, Trump with unyielding commitment, we are curbing the opioid epidemic. Drug overdose deaths have declined for the first time in nearly 30 years among states hardest hit. Ohio is down 22%, Pennsylvania is down 18%, Wisconsin is down 10%, and we will not quit until we have beaten the opioid epidemic once and for all. Trump said during his speech. There's also fentanyl and stuff like that people are abusing at the moment. That is all white people's problem. Fact, Trump's claim is correct, but it needs context. Drug overdose deaths declined in 2018 for the first time since 1990, 28 years prior. The Centers of Disease Control and Prevention found that there were 67,367 drug overdose deaths in the United States in 2018, a 4.1% decline from 70,237 deaths in 2017. So several states that were hardest hit did see a decrease, but others did not. While Pennsylvania and Ohio saw a decrease in overdose deaths in 2018, they were still among the top five states with the highest drug overdose death rate in the nation. So the CDC found that the drug overdose death rate was lower in 2018 than in 2017 in 14 states and District of Columbia. So, but the 2018 overdose death rate was also higher than that in 2017 in 5 states: California, Delaware, Missouri, New Jersey, and South Carolina. And while 2018 death rates due to heroin, methadone, and natural and semi-synthetic opioid overdoses was lower or stayed about the same as 2017, overdose deaths due to synthetic opioids such as fentanyl continued to rise in 2018. Cocaine and psychostimulant overdose deaths also increased in 2018. So prescription drugs prices. Tackling the high cost of prescription drugs was one of Trump's key campaign promises in 2016, and it's been a main focus of his administration though little has actually been done. So recent statistics show a continued rise in drug prices. So Trump harkened back to a data point he mentioned last year's State of the Union. And I was pleased to announce last year that for the first time in 51 years, the cost of prescription drugs actually went down, Trump said during his State of the Union address. Fact is, that's not quite true. The president was citing the 12-month change in the consumer price index for the prescription drugs for December 2018, when it dropped 0.6%. That was the largest, but not the first decrease since April in 1973, not in 51 years. At last year's State of the Union, he said drug prices experienced their single largest decline in 46 years. More importantly, recent data shows that drug prices have continued to rise by several measures. The list price of brand name drugs rose 3.2% on average over the 12 months ending September 2019, after adjusting for inflation, according to SSR Health, a consulting firm that captures about 90% of these medications sold in the United States. Okay, so that's similar to the increase for drugs sold at the pharmacy and through mail order. Okay, so the annual the annual change in the consumer price index for prescription drugs was 3% in December, the third straight positive reading, and its highest rate since June 2018. According to Alterum, a non-profit research and consulting firm. Okay, so the CPI, however, CPI, Consumer Price Index, however, varies widely month to month. Okay. So though the Trump administration rolled out a 44-page blueprint on how to lower drug prices in 2018, few of the president's proposals have gone into effect. The president court judge last year blocked the administration's effort to require drug companies to conclude list prices on TV ads. or require drug companies to include, list prices in TV ads. So administration officials last year dropped plans to effectively ban drug makers from providing rebates to pharmacy benefit managers and insurers because it would have increased Medicare premiums. And the administration's idea to set Medicare reimbursement level for certain drugs based on their cost in other countries has yet to be rolled out formally. So one effort that is moving forward amid much controversy is allowing states to import certain drugs from Canada. Several states, led by Florida, have expressed interest in doing this. Canada, however, hasn't been so eager to participate, and experts question whether it would be effective since Canada's prescription drug supply is small compared to the US market. I mean, why are Americans so hooked on drugs? Why? Why? It's the largest consumer of drugs in the world. Everyone is so drugged up in the US. It's crazy. So Canada's prescription drug supply is small compared to the US market. So drug companies, however, do appear to have slowed the rate of price increases, perhaps in part because of Trump's Twitter bully pulpit. Okay. FIFA temporarily walked back hikes in mid-2018 after Trump tweeted that it should be ashamed for raising prices and taking advantage of the poor. FIFA ended up raising them. Okay, the following January, raising them the following January. Everyone has pulled in their horns. It's not worth getting into a Twitter war with the president, said Richard Evans, founder of SSR Health. Okay, so trade. Okay, so USMCA. So Trump claimed that the new US-Mexico-Canada agreement, which replaces the North American Free Trade Agreement, will create nearly 100,000 new high-paying American auto jobs. Okay, or auto jobs. Facts first. Okay, Trump is inflating his administration's own estimate of job creation under the new trade deal, okay, which is even higher than an estimate from an independent agency. It's difficult to predict what will happen in the future, but a report from Trump administration's own Office of U.S. Trade Representative put the number at 76,000 jobs over 5 years. So the U.S. International Trade Commission, an agency that is part of the federal government, conducts. I'll take that again. The U.S. International Trade Commission, an agency that is part of the federal government, but conducts its analysis independently of the administration, estimated an increase of 29,700 jobs in auto parts production because of the USMCA, but a decline of 1,600 jobs in vehicle production. So courts, judicial appointments. Okay, so touting his record of appointing conservative judges, Trump said, we have confirmed a record number of 187 new federal jobs or judges to uphold our constitution as written. So fact, Trump does not have the overall record for judges confirmed at this point in a presidential term, but he does hold the record for appeals court judges confirmed, according to Russell Wheeler, a visiting fellow at the Brookings Institute, who tracks judicial appointments. Okay, so 187 judges Trump has appointed fall short of the 1997 presidential Jimmy Carter appointed at the same point in his term. Okay, so the 50 appeals court judges appointed by Mr. Trump thus far beat the 48 Carter had appointed, though Carter was operating with a similar or a smaller judiciary. So Trump has confirmed 21% of judgeships. Trump has confirmed 21% of judgeships. For Carter, it was 29%, and for President Richard Nixon, it was 32%. So Democratic response. Okay, so Michigan governor. I mean, this is a very, very lengthy article, so bear with me. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer said in Democratic response to Trump's State of the Union that American workers are hurting and wages have stagnated. In my own state, our neighbors in Wisconsin and Ohio and Pennsylvania, all over the country, wages have stagnated while CEO pay has skyrocketed. Facts. It is unclear what numbers Whitmer is citing, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest jobs report doesn't support her claim. So average hourly earnings rose 2.9% in 2019. The report says consumer prices inflation, meanwhile, stood at 2.3% over the 12 months ending in December, leaving average hourly earnings slightly higher than for the year. Sorry. According to the same wage measure, paychecks also rose in states. In the states, we cited Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So the story is being updated. Okay, so that's all for now. Okay, that's about it. So the article is in the description box. Please check it out, read it for yourself. It will be updated later. So CNN Politics, okay, check it out, go check it out, read it for yourself. But yeah, if you appreciate me reading it for you, please like the stream, okay, like it, support Chivana, subscribe and help the channel grow. Okay, so moving on to a shorter article from BBC actually. The banning of fossil fuels by Mr. Boris Johnson, who wrote a new policy to fast forward this by to the year 2034 instead of 2040. Britain achieving zero emission by 2050. This is very interesting times coming. Yeah, so in the next 30 years. We will be in our primes. Okay, if you are age 30, you would be 60. So yeah, all millennials will be in their 60s or late 50s. So yeah, we will be well alive to see this coming. So this will be in our prime. So this is great for us. Okay, zero emission. Okay, so this is great. So I'm going to share this. It's a short read. So moving forward. So by BBC, okay. So petrol prices. This is the science environment section. Okay, so petrol and diesel cars sales ban brought forward to 2035. So David Attenborough here. Okay, addressing the problem. So our planet matters. So a ban on selling new petrol, diesel, or hybrid cars in the UK will be brought forward from 2040 to 2035 at the latest, okay, under government plans. Okay, so the change comes after experts said 2040 would be late, will be too late if the UK wants to achieve its target of emitting virtually zero carbon by 2050. So who knows? They might even decrease it to 2030. Which would be the next 10 years. And I mean, Tesla has, lifted its game, releasing cheaper electric cars, and more people are going to be choosing an alternative and buying cheaper cars. You might buy a petrol car at $50,000, which is equivalent to about 30,000 American dollars, 50,000 Australian. But then you end up spending about $20,000 in petrol, you might as well get a 70,000 Australian dollars, 70,000 electric Tesla car, which will basically help the planet and cost you nothing in petrol. So just charge it at home, get yourself a couple of solar panels and charge your car at home. All right, so a lot of people are going to be doing that. Myself, I'm going to be buying my next car to buy as a hybrid. I stated before, and after hybrid, I'm going to graduate to an electric car, all-round electric car. So yeah, so the change comes after experts said 2040 would be too late if the UK wants to achieve its target of emitting virtually zero carbon by 2050. So Boris Johnson unveiled the policy as part of a launch event for a United Nations climate summit in November. Okay, so he said 2020 would be a defining year of climate action for the planet. The summit, known as COP26, is being hosted in Glasgow. It is an annual UN-led gathering set up to assess progress on tackling climate change. So David Attenborough said at the launch event at London Science Museum that he was looking forward to COP26 and found it encouraging that the UK government was launching a year of climate action. The longer we leave it, the worse it is going to get, he said. So now is the moment. It is up to us to organize the nations of the world to do something about it. So, I mean, Britain, the British Empire, is taking the lead in this. Okay, this will actually has gained my respect for the British Empire. Okay, so our prime ministers, sadly, our prime ministers in Australia have no interest in climate action. Our current prime minister is a joke, and he has lost popularity. Okay, and I can assure you that he will not be re-elected in the next election. So his approval has declined to an all-time low at I think 27% the last time I checked. So Trump is more popular than our prime minister at the moment. So how will the petrol and diesel car ban work? So in a statement made ahead of the launch, Mr. Johnson said the ban on selling new petrol and diesel cars would come even earlier than 2035 if possible. Hybrid vehicles are also now being included in the proposals, which are originally announced in July 2017. People will only be able to buy electric or hydrogen cars and vans once the ban comes into effect. So hydrogen cars, that's interesting. They'll convert water to hydrogen, but which will also increase what greenhouse gases. Okay, because it's going to emit hot vapor, water vapor into the atmosphere. But we're going to have water problems as well. So I don't know how well hydrogen cars are going to fare, but I think the best prospect is electric cars. Okay, zero emission is what it is. The change in plans, which will be subject to a consultation, comes after experts warned the previous target set of 2040 would still leave old conventional cars on the roads following the cleanup date of 2050. So, I mean, it's going to take another 100 years for petrol cars to be off the roads, which is very sad. So, yeah, the article will be in the description box. Check it out. I'm going to leave links to different topics in the description box, or I'll pin them so you can click it to the various topics that you'll be interested in, and you can listen to it. Okay, so the Scottish government does not have the power to ban new petrol and diesel cars, but has already pledged to phase out the need for them by 2032 with measures such as an expansion of the charging network for electric cars. Mr. Johnson said the 2050 pledge was necessary because the UK's historic emissions meant we have a responsibility to our planet to lead in this way. Mr. Johnson said the 2050 pledge was necessary because the UK's historic emissions meant we have a responsibility to our planet to lead the way. So that struck, a note for me. Okay. The announcement comes as COP's 26 former President Claire O'Neill, who was sacked on Friday, wrote a bitter letter accusing Mr. Johnson of failing to support her work. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said Downing Street had no comment to make on the letter, but thanked Mrs. O'Neill for her work towards the conference. He said her replacement would be a ministerial post with details set out in due course. Okay, so Mr. Johnson did not answer the BBC's David Shukman's questions about the row. Mr. Johnson said hosting COP26 is an important opportunity for the UK and nations across the globe to step up in the fight against climate change. So as we set out our plans to hit our ambitious 2050 net zero target across this year, so we shall urge others to join us in pledging net zero emissions to this. So we're going to be seeing this happening, play out, as Boris Johnson is now going to be, negotiating for trade deals with independently with countries. We're going to be seeing this play out. How this is going to play out. Britain is still tied to Africa. France is still tied to Africa. France is actually even promising an earlier date than Britain in phasing out petrol cars, fossil fuel consumption in cars, in automobiles. So we're going to see how this is going to transition in Africa. Are they going to ban it in their countries and promote it in Africa? We're yet to see that. And this is what I'm saying. This is the implication. They're going to ship all their cars to Africa, as Africa is yet still to go through industrial revolution. So this is going to happen. They're going to make their money off Africa. So yeah. So I'll take that again. As we set our plans to hit our ambitious 2050 net zero target across this year, so we shall urge others to join us in pledging net zero emissions. Okay, so there can be no greater responsibility than protecting our planet, and no mission that a global Britain is prouder to serve. Okay, so the Science Museum, the Prime Minister added that a catastrophic period of global addiction to hydrocarbons had led to planet being swaddled in a tea cozy, of carbon dioxide. Okay. But Green Party MP Caroline Lucas said on Twitter, carbon emissions are not swaddling the planet in like a tea cozy. They are behind wildfires in Australia, soaring temperature records, and broken lives of those least responsible. So the next article I'm going to read is going to say speak volumes of what this person is talking about. Australian fires have been really, really bad, have been the worst ever in history. Global temperatures have risen the worst this summer. Ocean levels have risen. The acidity of the oceans have risen. All these are indications of global warming and stuff like that. So friends of Earth's Mike Childs said the government was right to bring forward the ban, but the 2030, but that 2030 would be better than 2035. So who knows? They might spearhead this even further. as time progresses. As I'm saying, the electric cars are going to be very, very frequent. You know, in the next 5 years, Tesla is going to roll out by the year 2022 new electric cars that are going to be cheaper. The batteries are going to be more efficient. You know, so it's very, very interesting. The only problem is, you know, the getting rid of battery acids, environmental effects and implications, mining for lithium, which is a component of car batteries and stuff like that. So we're going to be seeing that, but yet still, you know, I prefer that than, you know, people losing their homes due to sea level rising. Okay, so majority of the world, about 87 of the world's population, live on the coast. So the implications are huge. Okay, if this trend continues. So he said the government could show real. Okay, so I'll take that again. So, friends of the Earths, my child said the government was right to bring forward the ban, but that 2030 would be better than 2035. A new 2035 target will still leave the UK in a slow lane of the electric car revolution, and meantime, allow more greenhouse gases to spew into the atmosphere. He said. He said the government could show real leadership ahead of COP26 by reversing plans to develop climate-wrecking roads and runways. So there we go. So this is the video on should I buy an electric car? You can check it out on. I'll leave the article in the description box. You can check it out. It's on YouTube, actually. Should I buy an electric car? So if you're not convinced yet, have a look. Okay. So AA President Edmund King said drivers support measures to clean up air quality and reduce CO2 emissions, but those stretched targets are incredibly challenging. The chief executive of the Society of Motor, I mean, it's all in the mind, right? It's all in the mind. It's a state of mind. So resilience, right? So people are adamant to change, and that's a problem. So the chief executive of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, SMT, accused the government of moving the goalposts. Okay, so of course they're going to complain. Manufacturers are going to complain. With current demand for this still expensive technology, still just a fraction of sales, it's clear that accelerating an already very challenging ambition will take more than industry investment, Mike Horse said. He said the government's plan must safeguard industry and jobs, as well as ensuring current sales of low-emission vehicles were not undermined. Current sales of low-emission vehicles were not undermined. Meanwhile, Mrs. O'Neill's accused Mr. Johnson of promising money and people to support her work, but failing to deliver either. So she's whining there. She also said he admitted to her that he doesn't really get climate change, and claimed he had refused to give Scottish First President Nicola Sturgeon an official role at COP26. I mean, you can argue that because someone who sides with Mr. Trump would really not agree with climate change, but doing this to unite, British citizens and, the Brexit and stuff like that, he has to come up with strategies, right? So again, Mrs. O'Neill has a video on YouTube. You can check it out. So Cabinet Minister Michael Gove said Ms. O'Neill was a close friend, but that he disagreed with her comments. He told BBC Radio 5 Live. Mr. Johnson described his own political outlook as that of a green Tory. So Mrs. O'Neill said her absolute desire for action has not been comfortable for some, adding that this was not abuse. This was not about me. Sorry. Mr. Johnson or Mr. Johnson, but about working towards rapid decarbonization. Okay, so she said at COP26 or COP26, the UK must absolutely double down on taking great leadership and ambitions in this space. Okay, so really energizing the world as to why this is a huge opportunity. Of course, Britain can lead the world again if they spearhead the carbon-free emission uh, cars, so they can do that. So that was the end of the article. Okay, so she's article is in the description box if you want to read it in your own terms. Do that. Okay. So yeah, now I'm going to move on to the real facts about the climate, and this is going to be my final take on the articles. Our climate is warming. If you saw from the thumbnail, whilst Americans are busy, okay, spending resources on trying to impeach Mr. Trump, who is evidently not going anywhere, contributing to the carbon emission. This was televised, being saved on the servers. The servers are releasing a lot of energy, a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere. I mean, having a huge carbon footprint, these servers. I mean, our planet is warming greatly. All right, so this article is quite lengthy, but I'll try and get through it. It's not as lengthy. Okay, so it's about 5 minutes read, 3 minutes read. So if I don't interject, but I'll try and go through it. It's self-explanatory. So this was on the 5th of February 2020. Okay, so the science alert. Okay, article is in the description box, so you can check it out. Permafrost in Canada, Alaska, Siberia is abruptly scrambling in ways that could release large stores of greenhouse gases more quickly than anticipated. Researchers have warned, and it's not only that. Okay, it's going to release diseases that have been frozen in the permafrost. It's going to release dead animals that have been frozen. Okay, as global warming, ice melting, seals are losing their food chain. The polar bears are losing their food chain. There's going to be a lot of animals that have died in the past, like say mammoths and stuff like that were frozen in time over 20,000 years. It's going to release all these things, and bears are going to be feeding on them, birds are going to be feeding on them, and it's going to increase these kind of epidemics we're seeing, like the bloody coronavirus that we're seeing, type of thing. So it's very, very dangerous times. Okay, so scientists have long fretted that climate change, which has heated Arctic and subarctic regions at double the global rate, will release planet warming CO2 and methane that has remained safely locked inside Earth's frozen landscapes for millennia. Okay, so this is about 20,000 years ago that these ice caps were formed, so or more. Okay, so it was assumed this process would be gradual, leaving humanity time to draw down carbon emissions enough to prevent permafrost thaw from tipping into a self-perpetuating vicious cycle of ice melt and global warming. But study published on Monday in Nature Geoscience says projections of how much carbon would be released by this kind of slow and steady thawing overlook a less well-known process whereby certain types of icy terrain disintegrate suddenly, sometimes within days. Okay, although abrupt permafrost thawing will occur in less than 20% of frozen land, it increases permafrost carbon release projections by about 50%. So, I mean, shit is going to hit the fan with this global warming thing by the year 2050. Okay, it's going to half the time. It's by 2100. But looking at the projections now, it's going to halve this by 2050. I mean, look at the bushfires already in Australia this year. We don't want another year of the bushfires, another year of summer in Australia. It's going to be very terrible. So under all future warming scenarios, abrupt thaw leads to net carbon losses into the atmosphere, she told AFP. Permafrost contains rocks, oil, sand, and pockets of pure ground ice. Its rich carbon content is the remains of life that once flourished in the Arctic, including plants, animals, and microbes. Okay, so this matter, which never fully decomposed, has been frozen for thousands of years. Okay, so it stretches across an area nearly as big as Canada and the United States combined, and holds about, so that's 2 times the landmass of Australia, and that's huge. So it stretches across an area nearly as big as Canada and the United States combined, and holds about 1,500 billion tons of carbon, twice as much as in the atmosphere, and 3 times the amount humanity has emitted since the start of the industrialization. This is a very scary time. Some of this once rock-solid ground has begun to soften, upending indigenous communities and threatening industrial infrastructure across the subarctic region, especially in Russia. Siberia is recording temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. That's crazy. So evidence is mixed as to whether this not so permanent permafrost has started to vent significant quantities of methane or CO2. Projections are also uncertain, with some scientists saying future emissions may be at least potentially offset by new vegetation, which absorbs and stores CO2. But how long is it going to take for vegetation to sprout? It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. But that is no doubt. Experts say that permafrost will continue to give way as temperatures climb. So fast and dramatic. Okay, so in a special report published in September, the UN Scientific Advisory Body for Climate Change, the IPCC, looked at 2 scenarios. If humanity manages against all odds to cap global warming at under 2 degrees Celsius, the cornerstone goal of the 2015 Paris Climate Treaty permafrost area shows a decrease of 24% by the year 2100. But that would be too late. 2100 will be too late. Okay, it's included. So 2100, global sea level is set to rise by 3 meters. You know what 3 meters is? 3 meters is huge. It's huge, man. It's huge. It's huge. So, at the other extreme, if fossil fuel emissions continue to grow over the next 50 years, arguably an unlikely prospect up to 70% of permafrost could disappear, the IPCC said. But both scenarios assume the loss will be gradual, and that may be a mistake. Also, Turekski suggested we estimate that abrupt permafrost thawing in lowland lakes and wetlands, together with that in upland hills, could release 60 to 100 billion tons of carbon by 2030. 2030, I'm sorry, by 2300. We would all be dead by then. All right, we'll all be dead by then, unless you've seen alternate carbon. We can download our existence, our experiences on a microchip, or if you've seen the 100 on Netflix, we can download our consciousness on our microchip, and we can transfer them into robots and or what they call slaves. All right. So she and colleagues noted in 2019 comment also published by Nature. Okay, so 1 ton of carbon is equivalent to 3.67 tons of carbon dioxide or CO2, which means this would be equivalent to about 80 years of global emissions at current rates. This is in addition to 200 billion tons of carbon expected to be released in other regions that will thaw gradually, she said. So current climate models do not account for the possibility of rapid permafrost collapse and the amount of gases it might release, the study notes. So abrupt thawing is fast and dramatic, Merritt said, adding forests can become lakes in the course of a month. Landslides can occur, which now warning, with no warning, sorry, and invisible methane seep holes can swallow snowmobiles whole. Okay, so this article has finished. Okay. Again, going back to this picture here, the Arctic Circle melting. So I'm very, very intrigued about this ice melting, and I'm sorry if I haven't. I thought I did share this. I thought I did share it. My bad. I thought I did share this article, but okay, I didn't. So this is an image of the permafrost, okay, that has completely thawed, okay, and melted in days, okay, and this is over winter. This is over winter. So I mean, it's shocking. All right, it's shocking. Okay, so summer is coming and it's gonna melt further. All right, I'm very, very fascinated about this because it's gonna expose flora and fauna that have been frozen in time for thousands and thousands of years, and polar bears are now going to be encroaching into people's habitats, and you know these kind of environments, and they're going to be eating on carcasses of animals that have gone extinct thousands of years ago, and who knows, they're going to have diseases that are going to be released into the atmosphere with the scare of the coronavirus right now. So these are scary times. Okay, these are scary times for us. All right, so if you don't believe in climate change, shame on you. All right. All right, so 1 hour 47 minutes. I have concluded my my goal for this stream. I have accomplished it. I have finished my stream and presenting to you what I wanted to talk about. So if there is anything that I did not talk about in focus of Africa, please leave me a comment and I'll reply. Always reply my comment. I am at a 100% rate of replying my comments to anybody who leaves me a comment. I always reply instantly. So leave me a comment. I'll always reply. And to all my new subscribers, thank you. Welcome to the channel. Share this with friends and family and help the channel grow. Thank you to my existing subscribers. I really appreciate you for supporting the channel and helping the channel grow and maintaining the channel. So City, if you're still around and you want to jump on, let me know. Leave me a comment. I'm sure it's very late for you. You might want to go to bed, but yeah. As it is, okay. Thursday, the 6th of February 2020. I am Chief Drino. My channel is all about Pan-Africanism, the global unification of African people of African descent, Pan-Africanism through the African Union. Okay, recognizing that we are all one of African descent, and yeah, it is what it is. Okay. Trending on my channel currently is was this ancient origins uh, article about Africans also having equal amounts of Neanderthal DNA, which a lot of Africans are not excited about. But it is what it is. Okay, science doesn't lie. Okay, people lie. Okay, DNA doesn't lie. I would say that it's the interpretation of the DNA results that is the key. But the truth is always in the pudding. Okay, and it's how these DNA written. Majority of African Americans have at least 20 to 40% European DNA, and and German. And myself, my grandfather is part German. My grandfather is part German, but when I did my DNA test, uh, German did not show up. Rather, Moroccan Berber showed up. It's very, very funny. Okay, and majority of Germans are. Someone pointed it out in a comment. The majority of Germans have Ashkenazi DNA. So a lot of these DNA companies are owned by Jewish people who do not want to say that African Americans actually also have Jewish DNA. you know and Africans are the original Israelites, and every day, the Jewish DNA is an African DNA. Okay, it's an African DNA. There's no way a God will create human beings and in his own image and mix it with a subhuman like the Neanderthal. So this is all BS to me. Okay, this religion thing is just a farce. Okay, is what make other people tick. It's not to be taken very, very seriously. So people who are so hung up on religion, please give me a break. All right, so I've been talking for almost 2 hours now. I'll give myself a break. Uh, until next time, please support the channel, like the stream. All right, until next time, family. Peace, peace, peace.